Hello and welcome to Teletour. My name is Igor. I'm a tour guide for Normandy Tour and I will present you today the apple and cheese country, Normandy. The Calvados is made using different types of apples. The picking season is right now, late October. And here at the Apple Brandy Distillery Pierre Huet, they combine low branches and high branches apple trees. Here in this field in front of me, high branches apple trees, the young ones, much younger than the one you had before. And they have also on the other side a few low branches, like the one just here, just in front of you. This one is a young, low branches. It's a new type of apple trees which started from the 70s, 80s, and it's about 30% to 40% of the production, of the overall production of apples in the Pays d'Auge. Here you can see that all the apples were picked. It's much easier to collect the apples from the low branches apple trees. The Pays d'Auge, which makes double distillation in a copper pot. Right now it's the picking season and the apples are then brought to the producers where they are washed. You can see just in front of me here many apples, different types of apples. They will be washed, sorted and then pressed to get the juice. And the juice will then be naturally ferment to produce the cider. Well, and these are the apples which are used to make the cider, and later on, when the cider is ready, some of the cider will ferment longer and will be distilled to produce Calvados. You need about 6 to 8 bottles of cider to produce 1 bottle of Calvados. Here in the Pays d'Auge, they always do a double distillation. In other places of Normandy or France also, they do what is an alcohol from apple, not called the Calvados, with a single distillation. The double distillation is much better, and the balance of apples, what you see here, it's really the perfect balance of apples. And here at the Breuil Auge, they also received some apples, and it will be like that all along November, even until December, sometimes until Christmas. They receive apple from different places, from their own orchards, but also from different farmers. You can see here a good mix of different type of apples. The smell, it's too bad you can't get the smell because it's really something now. Different from the other place, from Huet, different smell because different type of apples. It really doesn't matter if some apples are rotten. Anyway, everything will be pressed and then ferment to get the cider. It's washed also to be a little cleaner, sorted somehow, so no leaves, no insects, just plain apples used to make the cider. And then the cider will go in these giant tanks, ferment, because at the Breuil Auge they don't sell the cider. All the cider produced goes into the Calvados production. They don't sell their own cider. They only make the Calvados. Voilà. And here you can see a farmer who just arrived bringing his apples. So the trailer will be weighed so that he knows how much he will get paid. Maybe he'll have much more than one trailer delivered. So it's like that every day from the beginning of October until mid-December. Apples move along the small roads of Normandy, and you get the smell of apples everywhere. The pipes you see here, all the way up, are actually bringing the cider to the pot to be distilled. So, and these pipes run all over the place to bring the cider to this giant pot. And just here is the pot for the distillation, the very large copper pot for distillation of the Calvados. You can see it here in this building, running right now. So it's making the, you can see the screen is on, so it's making the Calvados from the cider which was made about 2 years ago. 2 years ago running. So they have their own. Some producers don't have their own pot for distillation, but the Brionnage is a medium-sized factory, so they have their own. And also in this building right here, they store the Calvados, the apple brandy, all the way up. You have barrels all the way there. The smell there, even now, the smell is wonderful, but inside it's a little bit alcoholic, so you really can't stay too long because you really get drunk. So workers, when they work there in this building, they have to wear a mask, and not for safety as we have today, but just because they would inhale way too much alcohol. This place was before a chocolate factory, and after that it was a cheese factory. So using the river, as I told you, the rivers were used for different factories, using the river for the power for the machines, for the chocolate factory, and Camembert. Way before it was a factory making boots, making leather boots, leather shoes. Voilà. And now this building all the way to the top has barrels, apple brandy barrels. Fantastic place. I'm standing in the aging cellars of the Brionnage, making the best apple brandy of Normandy, the Calvados. They select the best apples from nearby, and mostly their own apples from their apple orchard. The barrels you see here will keep the Calvados from a minimum of 6 years before it is ready for drinking. But some of the barrels in this room above are way over 100 years, and there is another room, another aging cellar at the Brionnage where barrels are way over 100 years old. The barrels right here are really old ones, and the ones here are barrels which cross the Atlantic many times. They have this very specific shape because they cross the Atlantic, and some of them were made before the French Revolution. So the Brionnage is really the best apple brandy distillery of Normandy, with a great care of selecting the apples, but also the barrels. The wood, the oak for the barrels is really important. Most of the barrels never had anything. At the Brionnage, some of the barrels had before cognac, sauterne, even whiskey, some of them, even sherry, some of them. But for the plain Calvados, they never had anything. And it's really important to combine young and old barrels to produce the great Calvados. Calvados is always a blend of different years. So when you buy a bottle, let's say it's written 12 years old or 16 years old, it is the youngest Calvados in the bottle for the blend. So it's always blended. You don't have single Calvados. And everything then relies on the knowledge of the master of the cellar, and he's the one which will blend the perfect way. Voilà, so I really invite you to come at the Brionnage when you can come for real, and when you will visit Normandy. Right here, this is where all started with this fantastic cheese, the Camembert, in the small village of Camembert. During the French Revolution, during the carnage of the French Revolution around 1790, a priest from the region of Paris, about Bonvou, left the carnage of the French Revolution and arrived weeks later, hungry and looking awful, in this small village of Camembert. There, a young girl, Marie Harel, opened her door to the priest, and slowly but surely they would invent the world famous cheese Camembert. Marie Harel knew how to make cheese like most girls of Normandy back then. About Bonvou, as a priest, knew how to ripen the cheese. You should know that back in the old days, the churches everywhere in France and in Europe would collect cottage cheese, fresh cheese, and would mature the cheese slowly in cellars. And then cheese ready to be eaten would be sold at the market, and the revenue went directly in the pockets of the church. So Bonvou and Arel would share the common knowledge. Arel had just lost her husband. She was a young widow, so she after could marry Bonvou, because after the French Revolution the priest could no longer be priest. Most of the churches were sacked, destroyed and abandoned. So Bonvou and Marie-Arel got married, and they would improve the recipe, lived a happy life. But the cheese was not yet called Camembert. The cheese would be called Camembert by the end of the 19th century, when the Emperor Napoleon III, on his way to Normandy to inaugurate the racetrack near Deauville, stopped in Vimoutiers. There, the grandson of Marie and Bonvou, Victor Penel, knew that the Emperor Napoleon III was arriving. He wanted to express his good intention to the emperor, so he brought him a big cheese, a big Camembert, which was not called yet Camembert, a cheese from Camembert. Napoleon III at the rail station had the cheese for lunch and really enjoyed the cheese. He asked the locals, what is the name for this cheese? And someone said, well, there is no name for this cheese, it's a cheese from Camembert. Napoleon would then say, oh well, that will be the Camembert. And slowly, from 1860 to the beginning of the 20th century, the development of rail track, later of ships bringing food and supply to the United States, to Canada, later Australia, would really develop the Camembert. And the great invention for the Camembert was really the small round box. Great way for marketing. As you can see, some of them here, some of the most famous brands. On the boxes, the producers could put their logo, their pictures, and identify their Camembert. A few things you should know about the Camembert is that there are different types of Camembert. Many people in the US eat Camembert, but they don't even know that there is a handmade Camembert, as you can see here, moulé à la louche, so made with a big scoop. There is also a raw milk Camembert, here the Moulin Carrel. There you have the real taste of Camembert. Because making Camembert with pasteurized milk, you lose a lot of the quality of the milk. So it is really much better to have a raw milk Camembert. Some brands are really world famous, like the Président, but they are not the best ones. So if you're looking for a good Camembert, if you can't find, go for a raw milk cheese and handmade, like this one, made with a scoop, handmade. It takes about 7 hours to start the cheese. Then it has to ripen about 3 weeks. And the process of making the first cheese takes about 28 scoops of milk. So, and it should be also, it must be milk from Normandy cows, the spotted brown cows. I'll show you just in a minute. So it is this way, with the local cows eating the local grass, very rich grass, that you can make the Camembert. The Normandy cows are really important to make the perfect Camembert, Livarot, and all the Normandy cheeses. These cows are always brown and white. They have spots like that. They always have goggles around the eyes. And what is really, really important is to have them eat the grass all year round as much as possible. So here, really lucky. End of October, plenty of good grass for them. These cows make really a very rich milk, almost yellow, almost syrupy when it gets out from the cow. And this is what allows to make this cheese. You really can't make the Camembert using a Holstein, a Friesian or Hereford. It works only with these cows. They're really very good cows, very good cattle for the meat. So the price you can get from selling the cow for milk is quite decent. It's really a very special and unique cow. It's a very old breed, which dates back to the Roman times, a very old one. Really lovely cows, and really the symbol of my region of Normandy. And this one, you see, you're lucky they have some small bells. It feels like being in Switzerland. This is quite unique. So, Here at the Fromagerie Grand'Orge in Livarot, you can see the milk container. We just received the milk from the morning, every day at 7 a.m. and later 7 p.m. in the summer and 6 winter time. Right now, milk is brought to this medium-sized factory, Grand'Orge. The milk is at room temperature which is outside, and out from the cow it is at around 36 Celsius. Here you can see this machine taking different scoops to turn and to cut the curd a couple of times. Each time this giant spoon is washed completely. Voilà. This is the process is made using the milk of this morning or yesterday evening. This is the tray which was used some time ago, a long time ago, to rinse the cheese. The fresh cottage cheese were put on trays like that at home or in the farm and turned a couple of times. The salt was put on each side. There are some very small holes also on the side so that the air can come close. So this is how cheese is still made in some very few farms today. And this is how cheese was made 50 or 100 or 150 years ago. The big tall boxes are used for the Livarot. Just below, the square boxes are the ones used for the Pont-l'Évêque and Pavé d'Auge. And lower, smaller ones are used for the Camembert. Voilà. So Normandy has 4 cheeses: the Camembert, the Pont-l'Évêque, the Livarot, and Neuchâtel, but we are not really in the region of Neuchâtel. Neuchâtel is east of Rouen, so south from Livarot, where I'm standing right now. Right here, these big Livarot are used for restaurants, only restaurants buy that type of Livarot. Just behind, the small ones are not finished yet. They should have also some leaves around the cheese to keep the cheese round, which also gives it nickname the colonel, because there are 5 stripes of special grass which is put all around the cheese to keep it, and also that's how the flavor ends thanks to this special grass growing close to Livarot. Where Livarot will stay 1 month, 5 to 8 weeks maximum, up to 2 months, ripening, cool air, always well ventilated, quite cool rooms around 10 Celsius. This is how slowly but surely they will become the delicious cheese we know as Livarot. Here you can see some are a little bit more yellow. They are about ready, maybe in one week, 10 days. So every day someone checks the cheese, turns, smells, they know, and they know when it's okay for packing, and then send to different shops. Here you can see the ladies are putting the sage grass around the Livarot cheese, giving it its final taste and final shape. They use natural sage growing just by Livarot. On some other Livarot, a little bit cheaper, they put just a plastic wrap all around the cheese, the 5 stripes of plastic. But the real Livarot is finished with sage grass all around. So I hope you enjoyed the tour along the cider and cheese road of Normandy, and I hope to see you very soon for another tour with Teletour. See you very soon. Bye bye.